So we all know that the World Cup is where the legends of the game congregate, from Messi to Ronaldo to Neymar in 2022 to the myriad of other legends who have graced the World Cup stage throughout the years. But what maybe isn't talked about enough is how legends can be made at the World Cup. What I mean by this is that the World Cup can make or break a player's legacy, taking a player who is of course still a top level player and turning them into a legend of the game. Now there are a few players at this World Cup who I think could potentially have this happen to them, but a player from Manchester United who I see really being able to make a claim for legendary status is Lisandro Martinez. Now obviously Lisandro Martinez, based on what he's done at club level, is nowhere near legendary status at the moment, despite him looking very impressive for Ajax and now at Manchester United. He is just 24 years old, so that's pretty much expected. Only the sensational talents managed to establish their legacies before that age, but Lisandro Martinez is a player who I think could be remembered as an all-time great in 15 to 20 years, and I think it could start at this World Cup, and there are a few reasons why. However, before you go to the comment section to express how I'm over-exaggerating, I will be talking about one of the best examples of a centre-back, a short centre-back as well, who had a stellar World Cup that not only led his country to World Cup victory as captain, cementing his name as a national legend, but he would also go on to win the Ballon d'Or. That player of course is Fabio Cannavaro, but not a lot of people know the drama and outright chaos that surrounded Cannavaro and Italian football as a whole just before and during the 2006 World Cup. But before we get into that scandalous story, let's first analyse why I'm so excited about Lisandro Martinez ahead of this 2022 World Cup. Now I should preface this by saying that Lisandro Martinez hasn't been a nailed-on starter for Argentina manager Lionel Scaloni, who over the past few years during World Cup qualifying and the Copa America seems to have settled on Christian Romero and Nicolas Otamendi as his first choice centre-back pairing. However, with Romero's injury concerns still lingering ahead of Qatar and Otamendi now a veteran at 34 years old, Lisandro Martinez, after his sensational form at Manchester United this season, has put his name firmly into the mix to start for Argentina. At the moment, if Scaloni goes for a 4-3-3, which I anticipate he will, then if everyone is fit, it'll be either Romero and Martinez or Romero and Otamendi. If he decides to alternate to a back five, then Lisandro Martinez and Romero, either side of Nicolas Otamendi, seems like a perfect back three. But I'm going to back Lisandro Martinez to claim a starting spot, particularly as the tournament goes on. And so given that he is in an Argentina side that hasn't lost since 2019 and is looking the strongest both from a personnel point of view and a tactical perspective since maybe Maradona's era, I can see Lisandro Martinez potentially being a key player as we get into the latter stages of the tournament. And there's certainly similarities between the Manchester United man and Cannavaro back in 2006. However, one thing that Cannavaro had to contend with that Lisandro Martinez doesn't is a whole lot of drama. Prior to the World Cup in May of 2006, news broke that certain Serie A referees had been pressured or bribed into influencing matches by certain clubs, and the man under the spotlight was Juventus general manager Luciano Moggi, as calls between him and certain referees were discovered through wiretaps. That year in 2005-2006, Juventus had won the Scudetto, 3 points ahead of AC Milan in second with Inter in third. The scandal became known as Calciopoli and became much bigger than just one man, as AC Milan, Lazio, Regina and Fiorentina were also implicated. Juve would later be stripped of their titles in 2005 and 2006 and were relegated to the second division of Italian football for the 06-07 season, whilst the other clubs would receive hefty points deductions. But the spotlight came on Cannavaro as Italian captain and Juve star centre-back when he would come out and defend Moggi, claiming that the methods of acquiring Moggi's phone taps were concerning, and asking the question why no one else was under surveillance. This caused a massive shitstorm which continued into the World Cup. In May, just before the World Cup started in Germany, Cannavaro's house was searched by Italy's financial police, and in the face of this, Cannavaro refused to give up the Italian captaincy. At 5'9" in height, having a stocky build and the aggression of a pit bull, the resemblance between Cannavaro and Martinez is uncanny, and watching Lisandro Martinez for Manchester United this season, it's easy to see shades of Cannavaro in the Argentine butcher. In the 2006 World Cup, Cannavaro was simply sensational, and did what most players fail to do, which is to get better as the tournament goes on. Cannavaro at 33 years old played every minute of the 690 that Italy played at the World Cup, with only Buffon in goal doing the same. A Cannavaro-inspired back line, along with Materazzi at centre-back with Grosso and Zambrotta either side at full-back, conceded 0 goals from open play throughout the whole tournament, with only a Christian Zaccardo own goal against the USA and Zinedine Zidane's penalty in the final breaching Buffon's net. But Cannavaro's standout performance was against Germany in the semi-finals, when he pretty much won everything. He was like a magnet to the ball, 2 steps ahead of everyone else, and having the tenacity of a raging bull, he dominated any duel he went into. I can't play the highlights as it will get copyrighted, but check it out after this video. It's a masterclass in defending, and has to be considered one of the greatest defensive performances of all time. Cannavaro would go on to lift the trophy after Italy defeated France in the final on penalties, with a helping hand, or should I say a helping head, from Zidane. Cannavaro would lead the Juve sinking ship as they were relegated, joining Real Madrid, where he would stay for 3 years, winning 2 La Liga titles and cementing his name as a legendary centre-back of the game. Now, it has to be said that before the World Cup in 2006, Cannavaro was still a top-level, arguably world-class defender who had won titles at Juventus and been successful with Parma prior to his slightly underwhelming time at Inter Milan from 2002 to 2004. But he definitely would not have gone down as an all-time great of the game, but for a spectacular World Cup which changed all of that, and with good reason. And so you can see what I'm getting at with Lisandro Martinez. Not only is there the stylistic and technical similarities between the two, but I also think circumstances do slightly resemble each other as well, without the scandals of course. Like Cannavaro's Italian back line, under Lionel Scaloni, Martinez would have great quality around him, with Romero also being a fantastic aggressive centre-back, and full-backs like Molina and Tagliafico being defensively secure, whilst the 3-man midfield including any 3 of Leandro Paredes, Rodrigo de Paul, Giovanni Lo Celso and Guido Rodriguez will provide a defensive stability ahead of him. Since Scaloni took over, Argentina have kept clean sheets against the European champions Italy, Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay twice, Peru and Paraguay, whilst also keeping a clean sheet against Brazil in the Copa America final. And so you can see that when it comes to big games, Scaloni's side seem to have that Italian resistance, the defensive security that previous Argentina sides, really since that Maradona side in 1990, have lacked. In the game against Brazil in the Copa America final, Scaloni's side sat quite deep and passive in a 4-4-2 shape. And whilst we have seen them press more aggressively and use a higher back line, I do think at this World Cup, because of the increase in offensive quality that they will be facing, and in particular the ability of players to run in behind, we will see Scaloni use a deeper defensive system, with Argentina then looking to break quickly and be more of a counter-attacking side. And I think this will suit Lisandro Martinez, as he's a very good technical defender, as is Romero as well, with both being very tenacious, sticking to the opposition attacker like glue when the ball goes into their feet. And if you watch how Italy played in 2006, and in particular Cannavaro, I think it's a great comparison stylistically. Combine this with the fact that Argentina, like Italy, have avoided a group of death, and whilst Mexico and Poland are going to be stern tests, I think Argentina will do a similar thing to what Italy did, not being particularly great going forward, but being defensively solid and getting over the line. And if Argentina get to the quarters, which I'd back them to do, this is where I think Lisandro Martinez and Romero next to him could have big performances against the bigger sides and the world-class players, as Cannavaro did against Germany and France. Now, of course, there are many ifs, which is always the case with international tournaments, but my main point is, I think, given Lisandro Martinez is a fantastic technical defender, he has the assertiveness, composure, and his overall reading of the game is great. When he comes up against the Mbappes, the Lewandowskis, etc., he is more than capable of having a man-of-the-match performance, as he's done multiple times for Manchester United already this season. I personally can just envisage Lisandro Martinez alongside Christian Romero having a stellar performance in the quarters and semi-finals to take Argentina to the final. I think it's just these Italian, South American style centre-backs who are combative and aggressive that really seem to stand out at the top level, particularly in the World Cup. And so if I had to put my money on any centre-back to have a player of the tournament World Cup, I'd put my money on Lisandro Martinez, which could be enough to eventually, at the end of his career, take him to that legendary status, just as Cannavaro did in 2006. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, check out some of my other videos which will be linked in the description below. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell because I will be releasing more content throughout this World Cup. And put your thoughts in the comment section below, and follow me on my other social media accounts on Instagram and Twitter for more content.